Okay, so I know it hasn't been long since my last Bendy video and I promise I'm not going to ramble on about every little thing, but since that video came out something peculiar has happened. It involves Bendy, sort of, but more importantly it involves another character. Henry Stein, the protagonist of Bendy and the Ink Machine. A quick once-over on Henry here. Henry was an animator for Joey Drew Studios and was the initial designer for Bendy. He left the studio before it fell into disrepair until he reconnected with Joey via letter, or via a visit to his house. It's a little vague. Either way, he found himself stuck in the Ink Demon cycle amongst the other lost souls. Secret messages on the wall suggest that Henry might be stuck in a time loop as well, not just the cycle itself. Well, the long and short is that the cycle itself is a time loop. I won't go into it right now. Hints such as him traveling through the well of voices in details scattered around suggest that Henry might be or might soon start to change into something else. Into what? Well, in my last video I speculated that I had thought he would turn into the perfect Bendy, and I am definitely not the only one. My only hesitation being that Bendy was playing with a little train, not a car like I said, and acting more innocent and childlike in comparison to Henry. Someone, I didn't catch the username and could not find the comment, so I apologize for not quoting you directly. Someone pointed out something that I had forgotten. That perfect versions of cartoon characters forget their past lives. This is displayed in the Bendy book Dreams Come to Life, where Buddy, the main character, becomes a Boris and then slowly forgets his past. He forgets who he is, only remembering fleeting glimpses of his past life while being smothered by the ferocious hunger Boris is known for. This is also portrayed in Boris and the Dark Survival, where at the beginning of the first act Boris collects all these pieces and posts together a collage to depict himself, briefly remembering who he is before it too drifts away. And yes, this is Buddy, as is the Buddy Boris who hung out with Henry and became Brute Boris. In contrast, the twisted versions, such as Sammy and Alice, seem to remember more of their pasts. And in the case of Alice, has none of Alice Angel's character. My main reason for doubting Bendy Henry was him playing with toys, but what if this is because Henry has been overtaken by this Bendy identity? We see Bendy playing with kitty toys in the cartoon, such as this absolutely adorable scene where he's on a rocking horse, so this is in character for him. This could still be Henry, but he has been swallowed up by the Bendy persona. That could explain a few things. Might even explain why he's dressed so snazzy. There is only one thing against that. An idea creeping up upon me. About another character, this unknown lost one. This guy. Yes, this unknown lost one who seems to be, unlike the other lost ones, thriving in the studio. He sports rope and goggles, decked out sort of like Allison Angel is. Who is this guy? Well, upon hearing the trailer, we hear his voice thanking us for helping him. He has an oddly quiet voice, but sounds close enough to a lost one's in tone. So, this is obviously not Henry. Right? And then I overheard a conversation where someone mentioned that it is possible this voice is a dub. Yes, sometimes video games redub voices to avoid spoilers. This would explain why the voice doesn't seem to match his motions. There isn't lip syncing, for obvious reasons, but his motions, thoughtful and then waving his arm as though explaining or suggesting something, don't exactly match the thank you very much. The voice also sounds a little odd. Maybe too quiet? That could just be a mistake in the trailer or a sign that it was edited, or maybe I'm looking too far into it. Obviously there's not much weight to this theory on this alone. Or there wasn't until the website updated with this. Take a look, it's Audrey with her allies, Bendy, Allison, and this guy. So this guy is actually an important character. significant enough that he's getting a front and center place. With this in mind, I'm starting to actually believe it. I won't bet money on it, but I think this guy is Henry. And I would bet my money on Henry being one of these two characters. Of course, this could be another character. Whoever it is, I could imagine it being someone whose name holds weight considering how important they seem to be. Not to mention the fact that he's a lost one. From what we know, cartoon folks, both on model and elsewise, come out of the ink. They can be employees who were swallowed by the ink, but they usually go through a few times before coming out how they are. Alice says as much when she talks about the inky puddles. Now, the lost ones seem to be pretty much what humans turn into after exposure to the ink. Even in Buddy's case, Buddy actually was killed and was reborn into Boris, which is likely why he didn't become a lost one. Sammy, while pretty put together, is technically a lost one. What makes him different is, well, I don't know. Maybe an intense exercise regimen. All we know is unlike the other workers who were exposed to ink as was, Sammy was supposedly drinking the stuff in the book. All that being said, you see my point. Henry could have started changing in Bendy and the ink machine, though he was not a lost one or Bendy at the time. As Allison doesn't know what Henry was, which could mean he's still human, and he hadn't lost his mind to the belief of being Bendy. This actually backs up the idea that he could become either, but assuming that he survived without any more trips into the inky puddles, he would have become a lost one. It's a little complicated. This would all be very quickly fixed if we could see what is in the lost one's hand. He's obviously holding something out of sight. Is it an axe, which would signal that it was Henry? Probably is just the gent wrench Audrey uses. He might be the one who gives it to her. He looks like the type who could upgrade a wrench. I wonder though if those goggles are made of the same material as the seeing tool. I suppose that perhaps lost ones still have vulnerable eyes, but it does make me think. Also, where is Tom? We're not seeing him around. I suppose he could be this guy, but I don't know. Tom dying, getting recycled, and becoming this guy seems a little like a stretch. But it is a possibility. Now my evidence is entirely circumstantial. I think Henry was turning into something. I know Henry is resourceful and so is this guy. He seems to be a big deal, so maybe it would be a significant character. All I'm going off is a hunch, and maybe that hunch is right and maybe it's wrong, but I wanted to throw it out there because I was excited about it. As far as my thoughts are, I don't mind if Henry's Bendy, but I kind of prefer this idea better. It makes Henry seem less helpless. He didn't just have his brain melted into a cartoon ink replicant, he's actually been surviving pretty fine compared to the other lost ones. So if this isn't Henry, then it must be someone pretty special. But who knows, maybe they're hiding Wally's voice under there. Maybe he's like a clone of Wally Franks created when he spit into a can of ink, and while he ran off to get married and go to Florida, his clone's been down here building stuff and surviving. Would be a weird, but neat twist. No weirder than this.